The Atlanta Braves win the series with a 5-4 victory in 11 innings, and this game had everything. Let's talk about it.
This is the Braves Postcast, your instant game reaction for the Atlanta Braves. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into the Braves Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we cover your Atlanta sports teams each and every day. I'm your host, Lindsay Crosby, author of the Braves Today newsletter over at bravestoday.com. You can follow me on social media at Crosby Baseball. He's Jake Mastroianni, host of Locked On Braves, on social media at shortstopball. And Jake, this game had everything. 5-4 victory in 11 innings. Drake Baldwin ends up being the hero. He wasn't even in the lineup today, but you use your entire bench, try to manufacture some runs. He hits a RBI single to left, scores Ozzie Albies to win the game. We're going to break down the pitching in this one, probably in the second segment. We're going to break down the offense, but just at what point did you have any sort of confidence that they were going to win this game? Because I went back and forth probably 3 or 4 different times in those last few innings.
When I think it was Ozzie that walked to start the bottom of the ninth, I think that's when I really believed, because if he can walk, anything can happen. So, I mean, as bad as this offense has been lately, I still just have a lot of confidence in them to come through and get it done. But certainly, re-sign since that home run off Raisel Iglesias, I'm a bit deflated at that point and thinking it's not going to happen. But then you see Ashcraft come in and he's a little bit wild and erratic to begin with, and you get the leadoff walk, and that's when kind of my hope came back that I thought they could win it. And certainly once they tied it, being the home team in extra innings, you feel pretty good about your chances.
Yeah. So back it up a little bit here. Okay, it's a 1-1 game entering the 9th inning, and you had just gone through an 8th inning where you didn't really have an opportunity to win, but you kind of played like you did. Marcell Ozuna gets a 2-out single. They put Stuart Fairchild into pinch run for Marcell Ozuna. That's going to come in later, so I wanted to mention it. But in the 9th inning, Raisel Iglesias gives up a Jose Trevino double and then a homer to Rhys Hines. So it's now 4-2, and Raisel Iglesias has more home runs this season than he had all of last year. This outing pushes his ERA to 5.40 on the year. But in the bottom half of the inning, it felt like Atlanta really kind of, to your point, Ozzie Albies walks, Sean Murphy singles. They put Eddie Rosario into pinch hit. I guess he can't pinch run it, or to pinch run. He can't pinch hit if he's pinch running, right? And then from there, you get an Eli White sacrifice bunt that scores Ozzie. You get a Michael Harris singles, part of a 3-hit day for Michael Harris that scores Rosario. And then Atlanta just kind of loses momentum. Drake Baldwin strikes out, Alex Verdugo grounds out, and you go to extras. How do you feel that Atlanta handled the late innings there, right? Whether it's sending Fairchild in with 2 outs, whether it's pinch running for Sean Murphy with Eddie Rosario, asking Eli White to bunt. Did Atlanta press the right buttons here, or did they just press all of the buttons and it happened to work out to tie the game?
Yeah, I mean, some of them in there I'm okay with. Some of them I thought were pretty bad decisions. I didn't understand pinch running for Ozuna in a tie game with 2 outs in the inning.
If it's no outs or 1 outs, I think maybe you're okay.
Yeah,
trying to steal things like that,
right?
Not 2.
Yeah, with 2 outs, I didn't really understand that one. I guess you're thinking if Olsen puts one in the gap, you got a better chance of scoring from first. But I just think the odds there are pretty low on that one. So nothing against Olsen that he couldn't do it. It's just it's not a high percentage play there. And then you take your best hitter out of the lineup. So I didn't really care for that one. The Eli White bunt, again, as I said, I'm usually the small ball guy, but I didn't really care for that, other than if you're going to do it, do a drag bunt, because you got the speed. See if you can get on and do it, but not just sacrifice. And it was a pretty good bunt. If it had been a little bit softer, maybe he's able to beat that out and get on. But I didn't really care for that one. Kind of kills your momentum, just giving the other team a free out there. So that one I didn't love so much. And pitch running Rosario later, I was okay with that. Just as we joked about earlier, it saves Snit from himself from pinch hitting him later, although it did clear your bench out because you'd already pinch ran Fairchild and then Rosario. So your bench was cleared out at that point. But yeah, certainly some in there that I thought were just okay, and some that I didn't really understand or agree with.
Yeah. And after you hold Cincinnati to a scoreless top of the 10th. And it really wasn't even that close. Gavin Lux grounds out and moves Ellie De La Cruz to third, but you get a strikeout, a fly out, you're out of it. You have an opportunity there to score. Alex Verdugo's on second base. He gets to third on a ground out. And then Stuart Fairchild hits one up the middle. And it goes through the catcher, or through the pitcher's legs. Matt McLain fields it, fires home, gets the play at home. I'm torn on whether it was maybe a bad read or a delayed reaction from Fairchild or just a really good play by Matt McLain. I want to defer to McLain and say that was just a really good play to still be able to field that ball, make a very good throw. Catcher didn't have to move very far to place the tag, but that was your best opportunity to score, and it obviously didn't work out.
Yeah, that one I was okay with. I wasn't okay with the contact play the other night with Ozzie at third and nobody out. But right there in that situation, I was okay with sending him on that one. I thought the ball was going to get up the middle. I don't know where McLain was to begin that play, but as you said, went right through the pitcher's legs, and McLain was right there on top of it up the middle. Maybe he was shading over a little bit. So I'm okay with that one. Just unfortunately, McLain made a good play.
Yeah, and then Orlando Arcia attempts a bunt in the 11th inning. He pops it foul, and it's caught by Spencer Steer, but you do eventually end up getting the walk-off. This is something Eli White gets intentionally walked to get to Michael Harris, who had
the guy you pinch hit for the night before.
Yeah, you pinch hit for the night before. He gets intentionally walked tonight. Michael Harris strikes out, and then Drake Baldwin gets the line drive to left. I'm happy that they won. I'm still not very confident after tonight in the offense's ability to score runs like we expect the Atlanta Braves offense to be able to do. Michael Harris, other than that strikeout, he goes 3 for 5 with 2 RBI. He has a good night. Marcell Ozuna goes 2 for 4. I think they were both singles, if I remember right. It's another one of those games. You don't hit a home run. You've only got 2 extra base hits, and you really struggle, especially in later innings, with runners in scoring position until you actually finally do it in the 11th. I don't know how I ultimately feel about the offense, but I don't feel like I'm super thrilled about what you showed tonight. It just happened to work out this time, and you happen to win this one.
Yeah, and it's hard to remember, too. You go back to the beginning of the game, and I think that's a lot where the game was decided. We're obviously going to focus on the end of it, but they just had too many empty innings early. And look, Lodolo's a good young pitcher, especially when he's on. All these Reds pitchers, I talked about it coming into this series. All these Reds starters have had very good seasons, have been very good pitchers. So I don't want to take anything away from them, but there were just so many empty innings where you didn't do anything. It didn't put any pressure on the pitcher. And I'm right there with you. And it's hard. I hate to sound depressed on what is a 4-game series win. You had some exciting wins in there. You found ways to win, which you have to do when you're not at your best sometimes. But I'm right there with you. I don't feel much confident that this offense has broken out of anything. I still feel like they're struggling a little bit, but they did have 4 hits with runners in scoring position tonight. It's more than they had in like their last 6 or 7 games. So
together.
Yeah. So, I guess that's a step in the right direction, but I think maybe my expectations need to be lower. I just still think this offense can be a lot better than they have been over the past week plus now.
To your point on the empty innings, 2nd and 3rd and 4th innings, 3 up, 3 down. I think it was the 5th and the 7th. You got 1 runner on. I think both of those were 2 outs. So just a lot of not really putting pressure on Cincinnati to execute pitches, to make defensive plays, and to get out of innings by giving them too many easy innings to just breeze through. In just a second, I want to talk about the pitching because Spencer Schwellenbach looked better today. You had some interesting bullpen usage early. Again, the Raisel Iglesias issue, and then Scott Buitt late. We'll do all of that next, right here on the Braves Postcast. But first, today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Supply House. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical, Supply House is a reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website, packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. They have a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400 plus top brands. So you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. If you need help with an order, Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service. So you'll always talk to a real person. For trade professionals, they have a free Trade Master program, an exclusive Dedicated phone line, free shipping, discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage of that, and now it's your turn. You can join the Trade Master program at supplyhouse.com/TM, and everybody can use promo code SH5 for 5% off your order. That's at supplyhouse.com. Okay, so Spencer Schwellenbach gives you 6 innings in this game with only one run. He gets the quality start. I'm a little torn on his outing tonight. It felt like the slider was the real star of the show, and he just didn't want to use it against the lefties. And so the splitter, I want to say the splitter had maybe one whiff that I remember seeing. He wasn't getting a lot of called strikes with it. But this did feel a lot closer to the Spencer Schwellenbach that we saw early in the year than what we've seen in the last few outings.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, there was still a lot of hard contact against him, but a lot of it was like the top 5 balls that were hit against him. The hardest balls hit against him were all ground balls. They were all launch angles lower than 10 degrees. So, that's more like the Spencer Schwellenbach that we know. He's going to get those ground balls. He's going to get the contact, and that's just who he is. But it's generally going to be, like it's a bad contact that we're used to seeing him get. You're right. The slider seemed to be the best pitch in this one. When you got that many pitches, sometimes you find one and you try to ride with it. But to your point, I mean, he threw it just as many times as he threw the curveball, and just one more time than he threw the splitter in this one. So, again, I don't think he's quite back to the Swallenbach that we've seen in the past, but it's a good outing from him. How can you argue with 6 innings, 2 earned? But yeah, I still think even he would say he probably wasn't as sharp as he wanted to be.
Yeah. Going into the 7th inning, part of me wondered if Swallenbach would try to come back. We saw them push Chris Sale's pitch count up really high. Swallenbach's, I think, career high in the majors is 99 pitches. He was at 93 after 6. They instead go to Rafael Montero. And I think that was the big decision that really surprised me, because they end up having to bail on Montero and go to Dylan Lee in that inning. Montero gives up 2 walks, no strikeouts, a hit, a run scores against him because he loads the bases, and Dylan Lee comes in and mostly takes care of it. But why do you think you would go to Rafael Montero in the 7th? Because I'm struggling to figure out why you would do that.
I think I know the why. I don't know that I agree with it, but you are in a long stretch of games with no off days right now. And I think Snit is looking for every opportunity to try to save his big arms in the bullpen. But it's the bottom of the lineup. I think the thinking was, if Montero can just get me through the bottom of the order, it saves me from having to use one of my higher leverage guys. I can save Dylan Lee, I can save Pierce Johnson, then that's going to help us down the road. But it's a 1-run game. You want to do that in a 2-run game or a 3-run game, I'm fine with that. But it's a 1-run game. I don't think you can take that risk with Montero, who's probably your last guy in the bullpen. As we've talked about, it's either him or Buitt, and Buitt took the edge tonight with his performance. So, I didn't agree with it, but I think that's the thinking behind it. Is you're in a long stretch of games with no off days. You want to try to save your best arms where you can, and he thought Montero could get them through the bottom of the lineup, and it didn't work out.
Yeah. Fun scoring quirk here. The run goes on Montero, but the blown save goes on Dylan Lee. I thought I forgot that's actually how the scoring worked. Interesting little scoring quirk there. But Johnson, Raisel Iglesias in the 9th. We're really thinking, okay, hey, Iglesias can hold it down. You can go ahead and get the win in the bottom half. He gets Blake Dunn to ground out early, gives up a double to Jose Trevino. Story we've all heard before, sinker in the top third of the zone for a double. Jose Trevino, by the way, just had a very, very good game. I see why they re-signed him to a longer-term deal. 3 doubles in this one. Absolutely amazing. But then Reese Hines gets a slider in the zone. First 2 are down and away. Third one is in the bottom third of the zone, and he just launches it to left center. Again, Raisel Iglesias now has more home runs this year than he had all of last season. So from there, you go to Scott Blewett, who gets the 10th and the 11th, gets the win. No hits, no walks, 1 strikeout. I thought Scott Blewett looked really good. And I'm starting to wonder now, how do you make room for either a 6th starter when Strider's back, or how do you make room for Craig Kimbrell? Like, Scott Blewett doesn't feel like a guy who can go. It's got to be Rafael Montero at this point.
Yeah, I think it's got to be Montero, which makes it even more questionable why you use him in the 7th inning of a run-1 game. But I do think he's the odd man out right now, and maybe not because they owe him $3 million, and maybe money becomes a factor. But I do think Blewett's been a little bit more effective. But I do think it's a toss-up between those two. I know Blewitt outstanding tonight, but I'm not going to lose too much sleep if they were to let him go. But again, after tonight's game, I'm certainly taking Blewitt in that one. I want to go back to Iggy though.
Yeah.
2 great sliders, Therese Hines. If he executes it one more time, it's a strikeout, but he didn't. And that's some of the inconsistencies with Iggy so far this year, is he's leaving too many pitches over the middle of the plate. So, I mean, you had a guy 0-2, you had him well in at that. If you throw it in the same spot, it's a strikeout, and we're probably going home a little bit earlier. And that's been the problem with him this season. But yeah, Blewett, what a big performance from him tonight. An unfortunate name for a reliever, but I mean, he looked great tonight.
And as predictably, everybody, whether the broadcast, the beat in Atlanta, everybody had the jokes. Scott Blewett didn't blow it. We're very happy that didn't happen. It would have been a bummer if Scott Blewett had blown it. I had to make the joke with Aaron Bummer too. Okay, so again, Atlanta Braves beat the Reds 5-4 in 11 innings. They are heading out of town now. There is a 3-game series this weekend in Pittsburgh. 6:40 on Friday. That is Bryce Elder starting for the Braves. Saturday will be AJ Smith-Shawver at 4:05. And then Chris Sale on Sunday at 1:35 p.m. for the finale. You do not have to face Paul Skeens. You will not see Paul Skeens in this series. They've already, I don't have the list in front of me, but they've already put out starters. Skeens is not one of those guys. So you will thankfully not face him this weekend. Quick programming note. I will not be available tomorrow night. Jake, you discussed doing your live version of the standard podcast tomorrow night after the game, but there will not be a live postcast. Still, come here, check out everything for Locked On Braves. Jake will have plenty of content for you, but there won't be a postcast tomorrow night. Do us a favor. If you're listening on audio, leave a 5-star review, Apple, Spotify, YouTube Music. If you're on video on YouTube, subscribe to both Locked On Braves and Locked On Sports Atlanta. Hit the notification bell so you know when we go live to talk about the rest of this series over the weekend. And for Jake, I'm Lindsay. This has been the Braves Postcast.